ahead and start it up here. So let me move your beautiful faces so I can see y'all and make sure I can see when somebody is coming in. So, all right, you guys, 9:04, Happy New Year, Happy 2022. We are starting off hopefully at a pretty good pace at this point in time. You know, it's a holiday, not a holla month or a holla week, right? So we try to make sure that we're still trucking along. I hope and pray that you all had a great time with family or friends who are family, which sometimes I prefer more. But at the end of the day, I hope you got a little bit of time to reset and recharge. I know that myself, we're actually, Abby and I, we do our annual retreat coming up. Boy, when do we do this? Well, I think in 2 weeks, actually. We rented a VRBO place up by Ironton, actually by our Crosby office. So Abby and I will be up there for 3 days doing our annual planning retreat, and that's always kind of a fun time for us to get away and kind of focus on what the next year is going to bring. So when we come back from that, I'll probably have a lot more to share with you. But in the meantime, I hope you guys are working through your business plans and kind of setting yourself up for 2022. And hopefully it'll be another great year. All the indicators point to being another great year, and I'll show you some of that here in a little bit. So just to kind of, as a gentle reminder, right? So we are struggling with staffing right now due to sickness with kids and families and everything else. So central services here in Alec. Just a reminder, any of your closing documents, we need to get the HUDs. Signed copies of those all need to be scanned to closing@cbcrown.com. That's the email account that we're checking because like Darcy is out today with a sick kid. So we won't see anything if you don't send it, if you send it directly to her. So just make sure you're getting that up to the closing@cbcrown.com email account. So that's just a slight update. Everything else is staying the same. You guys are pretty much crushing it at this point in time. One of the things I did want to remind you guys is this fun little factoid, right? So last time we had met, I shared with you what's going on in the marketplace so as far as units changed, right? And I wanted to make sure you guys saw this and are using it in conversation and all the marketing things as well, right? So when we talk about year over year, the last 12 months, the total market change in unit count, right, is up 7.6%. So if you did absolutely nothing but kind of hung out in the market space, you should see your unit count up about 7.6%. That's the market average through attrition. Well, our unit change is up 19.7%, which means, again, that we're up 12% over the market. So if you think of it in a story form, like how do we tell this story of data, right? It's that, well, Coldwell Banker Crown Realtors has served more than double the number of families of the average firm, okay? That's a pretty cool piece of story to be telling out there when you're talking with people in the listing presentations or doing buyer consultations. Well, why should I work with you at Coldwell Banker? Well, one of the easy things is in this last year, we've more than doubled the number of families we've helped in the average firm. That's a pretty cool piece to hang your hat on. And so don't be afraid to use that. That is statistically proven through MLS data. I can show you the numbers if you want the extra security piece inside of there. But it's a pretty big deal. And so it's one that I want to make sure that you were talking specifically to you guys about. Okay, now comes the other fun part of where we're going to talk about. So not only as far as the market updates, right? And people are going on and they're saying, well, you know, we're doing great as a company. Our unit count is way up. Our volume is up. We are up in every category that we want to be in, which is fantastic. But then comes into a little bit of play about, well, what's going to happen, right? What's going to go on in 2022? I don't know about you, but I've had a lot of people already starting to ask that question. Well, what's the market going to do in 2022? By the way, if you're paying attention, that rhymed and maybe should be part of, you know, the slogan for the day. So New Year's conversations as we go into this year, right? And so I want to walk you through some pretty nerdy stuff here, okay? And I'm going to do my best to break down to you a bunch of the statistical pieces that I've looked at and I've gathered. So hopefully you can take it and start to use it inside of your conversations going into the new year, whether that's listing conversations, buyers, just meeting somebody at the grocery store, right? There's a reason we wear name badges and logoed apparel. It's because we're not trying to be secret agents, right? We're trying to be out there and in the public and very aware of what's going on. So when we talk about that, there's a couple of questions that I've been getting, and so I want to try to answer those for you. One of the questions I've been getting is, well, is there going to be a rush of foreclosures, right, as forbearance programs wind down, right? So if you're unfamiliar, the forbearance programs, right, they were federally mandated, right, that a bank could not put somebody into foreclosure due to COVID. Another thing several banks did is they actually paused payments for people who were proving to be struggling from COVID, whether it was from illness, job loss, whatever. They would put your payments on pause. Similar to several years ago, right? Though a lot of those programs, you're still earning interest, it's just not payable yet, right? So there's some question marks along there. But so a lot of people are wondering, is there going to be this heavy flood of foreclosures coming into the market in 22, 23? What does that look like? So that's a question we're going to look at. The other one is, will buyer demand, right, continue as we've seen it over the past 2 years? So last year, right, unit count on average was about 7.6 up. So that's a pretty big percentage, right, to increase over a market rate. Will that steady stream of buyers continue into the following years? So let's talk about that one. Then another question we're going to get is, are we in a bubble? Anybody heard that phrase? Anybody asking that question? Hey, are we in a bubble? Like, is the housing market going to totally crash and burn? Well, the economy is the economy, right? And depending upon your outlook, we maybe have different views on how that might look and what that might come to fruition. However, let's take a look at some of the historical data and the futuristic modeling to show us what that's going to look like. So we're going to look at, are we actually in a bubble, and what does that look like? And then, right, isn't the lack of affordability about to crush the housing market? Okay, so some people, and this is a question I've gotten, people say, I just had somebody close on their house, my last closing, the 30th of the year, right? The guy sat across the table as he signed it, and he goes, wow, $60,000 over 6 years, and all I did was put in laminate flooring. That's a pretty good return. Yeah, that's a pretty good return, right? I think a lot of us would take that. So the question becomes, well, with the increase of the average sale price across the entire state, will that be an issue for us as we're looking into the next year's the housing market? Is that going to crush us because now homes are so far priced out of normalcy that the affordable housing market doesn't exist anymore? Right? And affordable housing is an anomaly. It's something that nobody can really define. Even at the legislature, nobody can define what true affordable housing is, but it's still a term that we start to look at. So we're going to look at that question. And then lastly, mortgage rates are rising, right? And so I've had a couple people come to me and they say, hey, Brandon, should I wait to do anything until they come back down? Should I wait to refinance? Should I wait to buy my new house? Should I wait to downsize? We can't really answer that because everybody's situation is different. But what we can do, again, is give you some of the data to allow people to make their decisions. So these are 5 questions, right, that I've been getting a lot of lately. I imagine you are as well. And so I want to start walking through them a little bit to give you some just some perspective on data, right, on how to answer this stuff and come up with a story. First question, will there be a rush of foreclosures as the forbearance program, winds down? Okay, so if we look at this, right, and again, this is a little bit overwhelming, but just hang in there with me, okay? This is a graph that it's indicative of the number of mortgages in active forbearance, okay? So as we look back, right, so this goes back to May 29, okay, of 21. Now, if you remember, most of us last year around May, that was about a month after the official lockdown of a lot of measures went in. A lot of us were stuck at home. A lot of people couldn't go to work. Factories were shut down. Like there just wasn't a lot going on. And as a country that historically lives paycheck to paycheck, right, we saw a significant spike in the number of forbearances, right? People couldn't go to work, living paycheck to paycheck. They called their banks and they said, hey, I don't have any money due to COVID. I'm stuck. No problem, sir. We have a federal program. We'll put you in the forbearance program. Done. Okay, great. No problem, right? So we did see a heavy spike in that, right? And now you start to look at it. So this is representative in the millions, okay? So that was 4.76 million active mortgages, right? Across the country, active mortgages that were in the forbearance program. Like just let that sit in for a little bit about how distressed we were as an economy, okay? About a year and some odd months ago. Now you start to fast forward this thing and you start to see, we start to follow the orange category. That took only about 2.5 months, right? For people, certain industries were allowed to go back. You had exemptions. You had companies were coming up with their COVID protection plans, right? So you had all of these measures that were now starting to come into place where people could come back to work safely, right? And so now you see, well, I was able to go back to work. I got my paycheck. I'm able to start paying again, right? And people started to come back and repay those that would come out of the forbearance program. Now, what they don't know is that that loan payment that they didn't make got moved all the way to the end of their loan package, right? And now they're going to have that extra payment on the tail end, which some people may or may not know. Then we go through, right? And then all of a sudden, even you hit October, and now we're kind of back into the blue area, right? And you see it just continues to fall all the way through 21, right? And at the end of November, when the last information was out, right, there was just over 1 million active mortgages, a 75% decrease, right, in the number of active mortgages in forbearance. So when you start talking about, is there going to be a rush of foreclosures? Well, as we look at the number of mortgages that were in forbearance, because you have to be in a forbearance option in order to be behind on your loan, in order for the foreclosure process to begin, right? So there's a lot of factors that go into that, right? State of Minnesota, we're a 6 to 12 month process on foreclosures for banks to take back. Oftentimes it's 12 because banks don't want it back, right? So people say, well, we're not going to see this for another year. And that would be true if you had the right data to tell you what was really going on, right? Well, the amount of everybody is freaking out. So many people are in forbearance. So many people are behind on their mortgages. Yep, they were. But guess what? Most people have caught up now. Now we're down to just around 1 million. That's good news for us, okay? Then I want you to look at this one, right? So upon exit from your forbearance plan. So, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Bank, I got back to work. I'm making a little bit of money. I'd like to come out of that, okay? Well, 39%, 39.4 roughly, okay, were paid in full. Most people a lot of people were relatively smart, use their PPP money, use all this other stuff to come back and get caught up on their mortgage. So 39% of people were paid in full, right? And you can see the breakdown here in the green section if you really want to know the breakdown, but they paid it in full. They were feeling good. 42% of them worked out a repayment plan. So the majority of people did not have the ability, right, to get there. The vast majority of people did a loan deferral, right? And that's when I say they moved that payment to the end of their loan. Okay, so that's that loan deferral. They're deferring it to the end of their loan cycle. So their amortization schedule is going to have a white outline on payment 112, and they're going to have 361 or whatever the number would be, right? So that's going to be some of the differential. But then only 18% were still in trouble, right? So that's where 16% of them had no mitigation plan. They just said, I'm still paycheck to paycheck. I can't do anything. I'm so sorry. And they either, they didn't make the phone call, they didn't work something out, or they just weren't in the ability to do that. And lo and behold, right, 1.4% of those people who exited said, you know what, there's repayment plans because I'm going to sell the house. I got to get out. We're going to do a short sale process or a deed in lieu, right? So that deed in lieu, for those of you who aren't paying attention or forgot, right, that deed in lieu is oftentimes the first step of that foreclosure process. You do a deed in lieu of foreclosure, and that's a way to get out of that on your record if the bank agrees to it. Very rarely will they, but every once in a while the situation is right for all parties. So the good news is, right, the vast majority of these people worked out a repayment plan. They're not in the forbearance process. They've worked out a repayment plan to get fully caught up, or they already are caught up. So you talk about the million people, right? So there's about 3 million active mortgages that came out of there. Most of them worked out a plan to actually recover that. And so they're considered not an issue, right? Not an active foreclosure case or an active forbearance case. That's pretty good news. Is this making sense so far? Okay, some people are nodding their heads. Awesome. Okay. So then we look at this, the number of consumers with new foreclosures. Okay. So this is the fun stuff, right? So 2017, you can look at this and see the number of new consumers with new foreclosures. That's what we're looking at, right? So this comes from the Federal Reserve and the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. They're compiling all their data. 314,222 in 2017. Okay, so that's fine. 2018, it actually went down, right? 279. Okay, 2019, down just a little bit again, 277. 2020, a significant cut in them. Why? Right? So if we go back to the previous story, Well, the federal government said, hey, we're going to issue forbearance programs. Banks, you have to do this. The FDIC is backing them. So you all of a sudden you saw this significant decrease in those where people weren't actually passing their foreclosure process on because the federal government gave them a break, right? So we were short about 161, but there were still 129,000 in 2020, right, that came through. 2021, the first half that was reported because it's a long process to get us the information, right? But the first 6 months of 2021, there was less than 20,000 foreclosures. So we were short on average, right? If we look at the 5-year average, there's about 290,000 active homes in the US that are in the foreclosure process. So fun little factoid, if you're looking for some dinner time conversation, that's the fact that you remember, right? Hey, I'll buy somebody a drink at the bar who can tell me the average number of active foreclosures in the US across a 5-year average. Nobody's going to do it, just me? Okay, that's fine, right? This is the nerdy part of me that digs this stuff, right? But 20,000 in the first half of 2021, you guys. So there is the ability to catch up to that is so unlikely that 2022, are you going to see a rush of foreclosures? Absolutely not. Is 23, are we going to see one? I'm not going to say no yet because I don't have enough data to tell me that, but I would look at the preceding indicators, right, of everybody coming out of the forbearance program, okay? The vast majority of people getting on a repayment plan or paying off their forbearance issuance, and then now they're ready to rock and roll with really only 1.4% of those people coming out. So you're talking, 10,000 roughly that are in a struggling issue, or 100,000 that would be in a struggling issue at that point. So even if you added 100,000 to 2021 on the bottom line, you're still short 170,000 comparative to previous years on the average foreclosure cycle. And this is in a booming economy too, you guys. Like, that's the other thing to think about. This is a booming economy, not the early parts of 2009, 2013 in those eras, right? So this is a different market that you're seeing. So we want to look at those numbers. Okay. Anybody else having fun? Okay. Last thing on the forbearance pieces, right? So we start to look at that number of homes that are actively in forbearance at the end, right? We told you it was about 1.2 million. We figure on average, the percentage of those people who have less than 10% equity is about 7%, right? So you can, and that just comes from the Mortgage Brokers Association. So MBA, they say it's about 7% of people have less than 10% equity in their homes. Okay. So if we take that tells us that the potential, right? Because it means there's not enough equity to refinance. There's not enough equity to re-am the loan or anything else like that. So the potential loans going to foreclosure, okay, are about 85,400, right? Then the first half of the year, so again, 1.2 comes from the story where we watch the down curve, right? 7% on average is the people who don't have enough equity to refinance or get out of the forbearance program and are stuck in a financial distress. So that's 84,000 plus the first half of 2021. So that 20,000-ish, right? Or 19,560. Let me get specific because my slide is specific, right? Because numbers matter. Putting the total potential, right, of 104,000. So the number of consumers, right, as we track down with new foreclosures, you even add 104,000. Let's round up to 105, right? To the 20 that we're in. I mean, like, the numbers just don't add up, right? Your average was 290,000 over the last 5 years. You're at 104. We're less than half of what the market is. So people looking for those screaming deals on foreclosures are going to have to wait at least another year or two before we're even going to start to see average numbers of foreclosures. Any questions? Did I tell the story moderately well? Okay, I like this stuff. This stuff is so much fun for me. Okay, so next question would end up being, right, something like...
Brandon, quick question.
Yes, Lucas.
Say, this might be stupid. Maybe I missed it. Is this just Minnesota or is this the U.S.?
U.S.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yep, broad market, because that's where we want to take a look at. Because, again, the coasts are usually ahead of everything and then trickles into the Midwest here. So we're looking at the U.S. as a whole.
Okay, that's what I thought. I thought I just missed it. Okay.
Yeah, no, great question. I appreciate that. All right, so will the buyer demand seen over the last 2 years, are we going to see that continue? Okay, so that's going to be the next question.
Yeah.
Well, so here's the thing that we're looking at. Where's my mouse? There it is. Okay. So we start to see home sales forecasted are to increase in 21 and do pretty well in 2022. So these are projections, okay, by Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, two largest federally insured backers. The National Association, the organization we all belong to with our chief economist and big team there, and then the Mortgage Brokers Association, the MBA, not your master's in business administration. Okay. So these are their projections that they had over the past several years. So 21, you can see it was 6.7, 6.8, 6.8, 6.9, right? Then you look at 2022. Okay, Fannie Mae says we're going to decrease a little bit in home sales throughout the country. Okay, so that's fine. Freddie Mac says it's going to be just the same. NAR says it's going to be another strong year, right? And think about how this last year was comparative to 22 going into it. But check this out. Mortgage Brokers Association, look at their jump, right? 6.9 million up to 7.5 million. That's a significant increase in the amount of transactions that they're anticipating. So if you're wondering the leading forecasting entities out there and what are they projecting, well, it looks like 22 is going to be really strong. Okay, even if you just average those things out, we should still see a slight increase over last year in the demand for housing, which is pretty great, right? When we're talking about what are we in the business of? Well, we're in the business of impacting lives through real estate. This is a really easy way to do that. So now foreclosures, not so much an issue, right? Is the demand going to be there? Yes. Okay, what about home prices? Is there a bubble that we're in? And are we going to burst this thing? Well, if you were to look at the market, right, are we in that space? So you guys remember the absorption rate, okay? And if you don't, the absorption rate talks about the neutrality of the market and whether or not we are in a buyer's or a seller's market, right? So the way we define absorption rate, and we can have a fun workshop on this because yes, these are numbers that we track. It would say that as of today, if no new inventory came on the market, right? As of today, nothing new came on the market and we continued to sell homes at the pace of which we're selling, how long would the current inventory last us, right? So at some point, you're going to get desperate and make a dumb decision and buy a crappy house, which is totally fine. But if no new inventory came on the market, Amy's nodding her head because maybe she had a situation a little too close to home to that statement. But what happens is if nothing new came on the market, right? How many months would it take for us to sell that previous inventory? Okay, so we know that a neutral market is defined as 6 months, right? If you're at the 6 month marker, it's considered a neutral market. It's not a buyer's market. It's not a seller's market. It's just kind of, it is what it is, okay? So a buyer's market is anything over 7 months. So if you have a swath of inventory, you know that you're in a pretty big, heavy buyer's market. And on the other side, anything less than 6 months, you're usually going to be in a seller's market. Well, if you follow the trends, right, and you can see the graph of where we are, you can pretty easily see that we've been trending downward, right, in that capacity for a long time. So it does appear that we're going to stabilize. So 22 is, for as far as inventory goes, is probably not going to be much better unless the cost of building significantly drops, but that's probably unlikely. But that's where we are as far as the inventory. So then most appreciation has accelerated every month this year. Now, this is the percentage year over year, okay, in 2021. So your appreciation, you saw a 10% increase in February, a 10.4 adjustment in February up to 11.3. And then you can see the whole thing climbs all the way up to about an 18% appreciation. So people are wondering, well, what was my home worth? Well, market appreciation rate from CoreLogic. CoreLogic is the parent organization that owns the product that we use called Matrix for North Star MLS, right? So they have access to all of this data and all 280,000 members or whatever their crazy projection is, which is where the number comes from. So they look at it and they say, well, we have an 18% projection. Okay, so now you're talking about a decrease in inventory of available properties and an increase in valuation, okay? So the market is beginning to what we call moderate, but the rate of appreciation is slowing down, which is good, okay? Because we were in a position where, I don't know if you were like me, but I had a hard time valuing a home in Q2 this year. Even into a little bit of Q3, I had a real hard time putting a value on that because you didn't have comps, but you knew stuff was selling $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 over. People were moving, financing issues or waiving appraisals, like some dumb stuff was happening, right? Well, the good news is that the rate of appreciation is decelerating. That is good. We are stabilizing, okay? The bad news is we're stabilizing at about an 18% appreciation year over year. Okay, so that's kind of a big deal in that process too. Now, the home prices, okay, so we think they've peaked. That's the good news here. And we look at the Federal Housing Authority, CoreLogic, and then the SPK Schiller indexes, right? So we start to watch some of these other heavy metric spaces. So we say, well, if you look at the year over year monthly increase in 2021, you can see, again, as we're going up, market appreciation is now begin to level out. In fact, the Federal Housing Authority actually says we're coming back down. And for the first time that I knew anyway, December, our list of sales price average was about 98%. So it was the first time that we actually dropped below 100% for the last several months. And this is another good news because now we're not continuing to climb. That was the problem with the bubble, you guys, right? It's got to continue to climb in order to actually pierce and then fall apart because nothing is sustaining it. The sign of something leveling off is the sign of something stabilizing, which is what we want to see. It's the part of the index that we want to watch because we were all really nervous going, okay, quarter two, still rising, quarter three, still rising. Then finally quarter four starts and we're like, okay, we have enough data to tell us we've kind of leveled out here, which is what we really want to start to watch. So that's really great news. Now, home prices, what are they going to do in 2022? Again, we look at Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, two largest federally insured mortgages, Mortgage Brokers Association, HPES, Zelman, and then NAR, right? These are all their projections. Everybody has them going up though, okay? Everybody has them going up. The average across these major players in the forecasting space is about 5%. So there's the number you want to talk about in your New Year's conversations. What's the market going to do this year? Well, most of the experts tell us we're going to see about a 5% increase in your home sale price. So if you had a $100,000 house last year and it didn't sell, that's probably going to be 105 this year, right? So that's one of those key indicator components you want to stick around and have. It's about a 5% increase. Making sense so far? Okay. Now we talk about, well, this question, what about the lack of affordability? Isn't that going to crush the thing? How can we sustain that? Okay, well, let's look at the Affordability Index, right, just for a little bit, okay? This comes from NAR, who tracks something that they call the Affordability Index. Again, housing affordability is a misnomer, but we use the same information. Okay, the graph, if you look at it, is pretty self-explanatory, but I'm going to walk you through it anyways, right? 1990 all the way up to today. Okay, years of distressed properties dominated the market, of course, 2009 to 2015. You can look at the Housing Affordability Index climbing all the way up. The worst in 2012 was at 197, right? And today, even in the past several years, you've noticed that we were kind of in the green though, right? So some people worried about 2018-ish, 2019, thinking, oh, it's coming. Well, it didn't, because then 2019 bounded back. And then, of course, 2020 bounded back, and we had this really great opportunity. Well, today, the Housing Affordability Index, is at 151. So we are very, very far from any type of issues with affordable housing, right? Interest rates are low. People got a bunch of extra money, jobs. I mean, crying out loud, you can go, most places are offering are on limited hours, right? Because they don't have enough workers. They're offering bonuses just to even gas station attendants. There's some pretty big stuff happening for people just to get it. And a lot of companies, if you're following anything, a lot of companies are now taking their money that they were using in occupancy, right? And cutting down their office space and giving that back to their employees who want to work from home and have different circumstances like that. So it's kind of an interesting piece. So again, 151 is where we are today. You can see we are still above the average. However, there is still some room to go. Just something fun for you to look at, right? National payment to income ratio. What are we looking at here? This comes from Black Knight. Average over the last 25 years. Payment to income ratio, 23. Over the last 5 years, 20. And then today we're at 20.5, right? So affordability wise, people are actually maintaining their income adjustments to their new homes. So very few people are making large adjustments to their home or significant downsizing adjustments. Everybody seems to be staying pretty consistent with where they are. Single family rent, for those of you who are interested in rentals, right? This is a maximum high, right? You start talking about indicators of what's going on in the world. Rental, if you're not in the rental game, you should start considering it, right? 2021, we saw a national rental index of 8.5. This is a 16.5-year high if you're really interested, coming from CoreLogic. So you saw rental, rent rates all across the country jump from a pretty baseline 2.4 meaning your market average, right, was about a 2.4, pretty much skyrocketed. So that's where you saw a significant increase in a lot of that. Median rents year over year, again, just to kind of watch you, this is just to show you that even in the rental space, everything is on the uptick at about 10, 11%. The larger the unit, the larger the increase, but everybody is still climbing and moving those up pretty significantly. So even a studio apartment is about an 11.3% increase year over year in rent alone. Okay, mortgage rates. Should I wait, Brandon, right? Should I be waiting to buy this next thing? Well, again, your situation is unique. I never tell somebody when to buy. I always just let them define. But some historical perspective on rates, right? So let's look back over the past 5 years. 2018, top of the line. Rates we thought were awesome when they were just below 5. 2016, you saw pretty good rates around 3.5. 2017 around 4. 2019 about 3.25, or sorry, 3.75, somewhere around there, 3.8. 2020, you saw the rates absolutely dive, right? I know several of you refinanced your homes or investment properties because take advantage, right? I had a client who got a 30-year rate at 1.8% fixed. Stupid. And they didn't even buy down points. That's just what they got. And then 2021, you can see we're kind of hovering right around that 3%. We are projected on the increase up going into 2022. But historically, right, we're in a great spot for you still to buy and sell, right? So will it cost you more? Of course, waiting is always going to cost you more, whether it's you're paying in rent, a 5% increase in sales price over the next year, market appreciation, or just the interest rates rising. It is going to cost you more if you wait. That's the story, right? If you choose to wait to buy or sell, it is going to cost you more. Not always the bad thing. It depends upon everybody's situation. So historical perspective again, right? Annual 30-year fixed rates. Today we're right around just over 3%. Most people, the Fed is raising the rate, so you're going to see that climb probably back up. I would guess around 3.5, 3.4. That's my guess. But you can see historically, we're still doing just fine, right? 2000, it was an 8%, right? And then everybody was climbing down. And even at a 3%, we're still far below where we were 20 years ago. And so it's still a great time to consider looking at that. But what about listings, Brandon? Oh, I'm glad you asked, my friends. Don't fret, because remember, when do most listings come on the market? If you're not reading the screen, I'll tell you, it's second quarter, right? Second quarter is when the vast majority of listings always hit the market in any year, which means, if you remember, our 100-day effect, right? If we talk about the 100-day effect, now's the time when we should be making the phone calls. Some people like to ask for referrals. I don't like to do that. I like to ask for connections. A referral implies that I'm going to give something. It's a quid pro quo. I'm not interested in that. What I am interested in is calling past clients. Hey, we're coming up on a year. Happy New Year. How's the new house? How's the transition? Awesome. I know you guys had a great experience. I'm just wondering if you know of anybody who's thinking about buying or selling. I would love an intro call or a chance to connect with them to see if I can be of any service to them. Thanks very much. So on and so forth. Yes. So everybody is feeling good about that. Most of the listings and everything are coming into the space, and it's going to be just fine. Now, this is something kind of fun, and hopefully brings you a little bit of peace, right? The pandemic has delayed plans for many Americans and homeowners looking to move on to the next stage of life. Recent surveys suggest the majority of prospective sellers are actively preparing to enter the market this winter, which means those conversations you have started and the people you have, talked to, haven't yet executed, now is the time for you to be picking them back up and getting them moving. Now's the time when you want to start having those conversations, because we know that they're planning to list. There was a little bit of hesitancy. A lot of that is fading. They are still preparing to enter the marketplace. Top reasons to sell, right? Majority ones say their home no longer meets their needs. That we know that, right? A home is nothing more, or a house is nothing more than a tool, right? If it doesn't fit, we find a new one. They've realized that they want different features. They want to move closer to family and friends. Thank you, COVID. And believe it or not, the mudroom is the #1 feature out the door for 2022. The #1 feature buyers want. Everybody's looking for that home office, because any of you who tried to work from home remember how terrible that was, right? The majority of sellers entering the market for 2022 are going to do so in the next 6 months, which means your next quarter is absolutely critical to your success in crushing it in 22. If you do not work January, February, March and making those connections and planning with people, your 2022 is going to be pretty lackluster, because most people are going to hit the market and they're going to flood it very soon. 65% have just listed or plan to list. 36% of them have researched the value and are prepared in making repairs to their property. Here's the big one. 93% have already taken steps towards listing their home, including working with an agent. But only 28% of those people have said they're actively working with agents. So people are on the move. They are making transitions and they're making there. You got to be there and you got to be in front of them. So general statements for the new year, right? You got to invest time in becoming a market expert. That's the big thing you guys got to do. Please make sure your homeowners, you're talking about equity in any conversation you have, because that's the key component right now that's going to drive a lot of people. Well, I can't afford the new house. No, that's not necessarily true. I tell people this all the time. Your primary residence is not an investment tool. It's there to build you wealth, don't get me wrong, but it is not an investment tool. And when you sell high, you buy high. That equity, it just shifts with you in the market. Your payments are what gather you, right? Your higher equity. That equity just shifts with on the market, versus investments. That's a totally different strategy, right? So your equity adjusts with you in the market. Make sure you're having that conversation so people understand. Don't lose momentum, you guys, right? It's really easy at the end of the year to kind of slow down and just slowly start to ramp up as we head into the January here. We got to hit the ground running. Be confident. They know you guys have knowledge. They know that you have the confidence to help them make the decisions. That's why they called you. That's why you're sitting down with them. That's why you're doing your market analysis. That all of these things matter, right? They trust you, trust yourself, and walk in the room and they have some confidence that you are a professional. Questions on that whole thing? Kevin's smiling, but I don't know why.
I liked all the predictions, all the facts behind it. I think it all makes sense.
Then I did something well. All right, sweet deal. Let me walk you through just a little bit of education, you guys, that we have coming up, and then I'll get Reminder Media here and kind of get you on your way for the day. All right, a couple things we got coming. Make sure you guys are checking out Coldwell Banker University, right? So if you could log into mycbdesk.com and you find the CBU tile, that's what will get you in there. There's a lot of great stuff for agent pathways, lead generation, how to farm, how to handle your sphere of influence. Now is a great time to be working in your business, not on your business, right? Or it's a great time to be working on your business, not in your business is what I meant to say. My apologies. So working on our business means how do we grow our skills in our repertoire of tools in order to be more successful? We have a bunch of great resources there for you. Something I can't stress enough that I would love all of you to attend. This is, if you have not read, Never Split the Difference, you got to read it, because Chris Voss, a former FBI negotiator, one of the best records in the country in the history of the FBI, he is actually going to come and do a masterclass for us in the Coldwell Banker Network here, January 20th. This will be at noon. You can register at cbeducationexpo.com, and you can log in. This will be an hour of your time. I promise you will learn something from. So see if you can make time for that one. A reminder, C2EX, right? Our commitment to excellence. This is out there, an opportunity for you to earn a free designation. So there's some great space there for you. Coffee and contracts, right? We started back up. We're working through the listing contract right now. This is on Zoom, Mondays through at 9. It's 30 minutes. We're in and out. Hopefully we're learning something. I think we're having fun. Teach Me Thursdays is around too. So Thursday starting at 9, we'll do the same thing. If you have something you'd like to cover going into this next week or this Thursday, please email me and we'd be happy to get that scheduled for you. And then lastly, we're going to bring our folks in from Reminder Media. I am going to admit Nolan in here and we'll get him in ready to rock and roll. Let's see. Nolan, are you with us?
Yes, I am. How you doing, Brandon?
I am doing well. Sounds good, my man. I am done. You should have access to share the screen and take over for you. So feel free to lead the charge.
Cool. Let's see if this works. If Zoom's going to be nice to me today or not. Is that popping up okay? Can you guys see that screen?
We got it.
Cool. So first off, thank you guys for giving us a couple minutes. Appreciate you letting us in here, Brandon. I'm born in New Jersey, so I am sort of a to the point kind of guy. I hope that I hope that jives well with you guys. Here's what our company's about. If you don't know us, we're called Reminder Media. What we really focus on is helping real estate agents drive in more repeat business and referral business. We've been doing this for almost 20 years now. And here's the thing, I just want to get this out of the way early. Most of you are hopefully going to have a plan for what you do for your past clients and for your sphere already. So we're not here to replace that. We're not here to get any of that out of the way. We've just seen though, if we can help with that, a lot of the times there's some good fruit we can see from that labor. So these are a couple things I like to just share really briefly. This is from the National Association of Realtors. Again, some of this is going to be familiar to you. 53% of buyers and 67% of sellers. This is from 2020. We'll be getting the updated info in the next couple weeks here from NAR. But the majority of people use an agent that either they got referred to or they had already worked with in the past. Okay, so for us, that's important. That's where we should be focusing on driving in more production. Now here's a pop quiz. So let's see if you guys are a participatory group today. If you were to guess, let's say just sellers, because we all want sellers right now. What percentage of sellers would you guess instead found their agent online? So they didn't know them, they didn't get referred to them. They literally just found them on Google or Facebook or Zillow or any of those sources online. What do you guys think? Give me a wild guess.
10%.
10% from Mitch. He's about to walk away with the points because that's the closest guess. So it's a good guess, actually. 5% of people. And the reason I just share this is I think there's a lot of folks that I just see it. They put a lot of their focus, a lot of their time, a lot of their budget in their internet appearance. And that's good. I mean, there's value there. But when it comes to driving in business, look, right, the majority of people, heavy majority of people, there's some relationship that caused them to drive in that transaction. So that should be familiar. Here's the stat that surprises a lot of agents. If you look at how the average agent allocates their budget, there's this really weird disconnect. You know, most of your business is going to come through people. And then NAR says most people literally do not spend a dime of their budget on building relationships with those people, not a dime. Now, the caveat, they don't include an email blast. They're not going to include a postcard mailing or like a flyer, because those people are going to get a lot of that stuff. That's not building any real rapport. It's an ad. What they're looking at here is essentially, do you do anything different for the client that they're not going to get from another realtor, from their mechanic, from a pizza shop, or is it kind of the same types of things? And that's, I mean, you can see it right here for most agents. So this, I don't share this as a dig. This isn't like, how could you? I share this because a lot of people that I talk to just get real busy and they'll tell me, yeah, I know I need to follow up better, but they don't. This is what we want to avoid, especially with spring market being around the corner and we're all kind of licking our lips about that. We've seen if people don't follow up well, it's a matter of time before you're on the MLS or you're on Facebook and you're going, wait a second, that's a property I thought I'd get the listing, and here it is with somebody else's face. We don't want that. Okay, so here's our solution. This is not revolutionary. Our fix to that problem is we believe this is primarily about people. If you obviously do a great job through the transaction, that's a given. But after that, if you do an excellent job of following up, of showing thoughtfulness, that you care about them, you value them, they're not just a paycheck and then you're gone for 5 or 6 years. They're going to know people every single year that they could refer to you. They're going to know other people that need to buy or need to sell. The question for us is not, where are the opportunities? Are there opportunities out there? Yeah, they're right in your database. We already know that. The question is, how often are they coming to you or not? And that's really where we try to help people. And that is why we focus so much on your sphere, on your past clients, because we think, we've been seeing for the past 18 years, we can help with that. That all sounds fine in theory. Why the heck am I here? What do we do to actually help with any of that? The main thing I want to show you guys today is these customizable magazines that we've been producing. Any of you guys ever seen any of these before? American Lifestyle, is that ringing a bell to some people? Okay, a little bit. So here's the scoop. These are all the same exact length and price and layout and quality. There's 3 different magazines. The only difference between them is the types of articles that we put in each one. So quick overview. American Lifestyle is going to have a lot about design, travel, arts and culture, leisure. It's pretty broad, so this one can kind of fit anybody. Start Healthy. The name says it. It's all about health and wellness. So eating right, taking care of yourself, workout tips, getting outdoors, stuff along those lines. And then the newest one, which I think a lot of you guys might like, is Good to Be Home. And this one is all specifically about the home. So decorative tips, lawn and garden, energy efficiency, property value, property maintenance, things that people might enjoy there. So whichever one you like the best, you can use that one. If you ever want to change it up and use a different one, you can do that. We click a button and we can do that. So just wanted to give you guys some different looks on how we present to the client. And then I'll just quickly show you kind of the layout, and then I can get to questions in just a minute or so. So anywhere you see Stacy, can you guys see this sample I just dragged over? Okay. Okay, great. That's where we put you. So you're right in the front. It's really obvious that it's coming from you when somebody gets it out of the mail. And then there's a bunch of different cover options. So if you don't like this one, there'll be like 30 different ones for each magazine, each issue. So tons of different things you can choose from there to make it fit your style. Inside the cover, you're going to see a little letter from you to the client. Brandon, I should ask you quick, the group that you've got on, are these all, seasoned agents? Do you have some newer agents? What's kind of the mix you got on here?
We got a mix.
Okay, a little bit of both. For those of you that have been doing this for a while, if you ever want, you can customize this letter down to different groups or even different individuals. So if you ever wanted to make it say something personalized to Bill and Judy, you can do that if you want to take the time. It's easy to do. There's no extra charge for that. If you're new, we have a new agent program. I'm not going to go all into it now. But one part of it is use this to tell people who the heck you are. Where are you from? What's your background? Why'd you get into real estate? What do you do in your free time? Those types of little narratives tend to help people feel more connected, more trust with you than just a name and a number. So we can do that kind of thing for you. To fly through the rest, you'll see a couple of these pull-out cards, one in the front and then another one in the back. And we can have whatever the heck you want on those. We'll give you a bunch of templates. A lot of people do use our recipes or drink mixes. Those things tend to stick around, but there's tons of choices. And then the rest of the magazine is just a bunch of nice, it's 48 pages. So it's a full length magazine we put out. And you'll notice there's no other ads. This is not a catalog. We're not promoting anybody else except you. But really our goal here is just to provide value. We want to give the client something. We know they might not read every page, right? But something when they get it and they look at it, they go, hey, this is kind of nice. We like getting this. So it doesn't just go where all their other mail tends to go. So that's kind of a quick look at the quality of what we produce. And the last thing I'll show you guys is the whole back cover, inside and out. This is all yours. So we could do anything you want here. We could do a just sold listing. We could do, a lot of people lately are doing like a QR code where people can go leave you reviews or read your reviews. Some people do updates about the market, really whatever you want to do. We're going to give you an assistant. We're going to give you templates. So it's easy. It's not a lot of work on your end, but we want to produce something that's different, that's personal. So for your most important relationships, you're doing something that has an ROI there. So that's the magazine. The one other thing I'll say, here's the hard part of my job. You guys have a lot of marketing ideas that get thrown at you, right? And then it's my job to come in here in 5 or 10 minutes and say, hey, here's the shiniest object out there. This is why I think it's worth at least considering. If I asked you, hey, when you follow up with past clients or your sphere, what do you do? Most people I talk to, it's one end of the spectrum or the other. And what I mean is some people do amazing things, client events, gift cards, movie tickets, dinner dates, awesome stuff. Those things tend to be a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of money. And it's hard to have a whole lot of consistency with those types of things. The other end of the spectrum is things like emails, social media posts, postcards, holiday cards, all good stuff, useful things. But I would just say the biggest reason I hear a lot of our agents that work with us and stick with us for years, it's the shelf life. The clients like it and the clients keep it. And so if you're thinking of ways where you could be remembered better, you could be top of mind better to get referral business, get repeat business, 3 to 4 weeks on average. So it's just really, really effective in terms of keeping you in front of them. And then when opportunities present themselves, you're there, you're not missing out. And yeah, it also doesn't hurt that it looks pretty nice when you've got your own magazine. It's impressive. You can give that to somebody and it helps build some confidence in you as an agent to go with. So that's really the concept. I have I think maybe like 2 more slides just on some of the pricing info, but figured I'd pause there and just check in with you guys. What else? What kind of questions might you have about anything, timing, customizing, articles, Like I said, I'm from Jersey. I talk quick. If you need me to repeat something, that's that's okay too. But what do you guys got in terms of questions about the idea? All right. Usually means I'm doing my job, kind of just about covered it. So let's get to the damage. Here's the one that I'm sure you guys are wondering, how bad's it hurt? So there's really just two things on the cost. Up front, if you want to work with us, there's an activation fee. Now that part's usually a bit more. It's $299 if you already went on and Googled us. If anybody from this meeting or from your office wanted to try us out as a little thank you to Brandon, we dropped that down to just $99. So woot woot to Brandon. Now, what you get with this is you get a marketing advisor from my team. They do all like the setup, customization, stuff like that. You've got a point person just to, to make that stuff as easy as possible. You also do get exclusive rights of your mailing list. So anywhere you want this to go, whether that's someone's home, whether you want to send some to your doctor's office to have there in the waiting room, they're only allowed to get it from you. They can't get it from anybody else. And that way, again, it just looks better than all the same stuff that everybody else is sending out there. And then one other feature that's sort of new for us is we now will give you some predictive data. Any person on your list, you can send us a list of 800 names if you want to. We will evaluate and grade every single person for you based on their likelihood to buy or sell. Since we put this out last year, we've been able to predict 72% of listings before they even came on the market. So that's pretty good. It's a good insight just to make sure nothing slips through the cracks on you. So that all comes included with what we do. And the only other cost you'll see right there is the price of the magazines, $3.99 a copy. And that includes all the customization, the printing, the postage, the shipping. I say it every time. It's less than a Hallmark card. Okay. It's $4. And the minimum is just 50. So one thing I should clarify, a lot of our agents this is more of a hand-picked group. So you don't send it to 900 names. You send it to your top 50 or 100 or so out of your database. That's pretty common. So $3.99 times 50 puts you at $199.50. And you don't pay for the magazines until you want them printed. Some of you guys might want that to be tomorrow. Some of you guys might be real busy. You need a month and a half. Okay, great. Whenever you're ready, that's when you pay for the magazines, and we'll send them out. And one last little perk. All we ask you to commit to is one mailing. So if you're looking at your business and you go, all right, yeah, I probably should be doing, we go, hey, try it out once. If you get feedback that you feel good about and the response is positive, great. We do a new one every 2 months. So there's 6 per year. We'd love to keep working with you. If you try it and for any reason you don't want to continue, you can just tell me to kick rocks and that's okay too, but it gives you a chance to do something different and then evaluate and take it from there. And the only other thing I'd encourage you guys with is when it goes out, follow up. Sometimes people skip that step, but I would say it doesn't replace a call. It's a really good reason for a call. Hey, what'd you think? Hey, did you like the magazine? Did you get your magazine? They all like it. It's got your face on it, right? Like they got to say yes. But the point is, it's easy. It's not just about business. When you connect, it gives you a little bit softer intro there. But the point is, the more opportunities you take to connect and show appreciation, they're going to have people they could bring to you. And so we want to just create more and more of those conversations where you can hear about it. So that's what we do. I have one perk that I'll leave you guys with as I sign off here in a second, but anybody else, any other questions about how this thing works? All right. Sounds like not. So here's all my info. Yeah, nice, to the point. If anybody had questions, a lot of times people might have more like specific things. Feel free to text me, email me, call me. Happy to connect with you. And what I'll leave you guys with is this. I do a lot of these meetings, and oftentimes there's at least 1 or 2 people that are like kind of intrigued by what we do, even if they're kind of quiet during the meeting. What I've learned is you guys are busy people. And if we don't hear from you relatively soon, we tend to not hear from you, at least not for a while. So here's something our company started doing. If anybody's intrigued and you think you might want to try this out, if you reach out to me either today or tomorrow, our company throws in 15 free magazines for you. So it's nothing crazy, but it's like a free $60 just for not procrastinating like we all do from time to time. So figured I'd ask before I go, is there anybody here that either has questions and wants to connect one-on-one offline, or anybody that's interested and wants me to take your name down just so we don't slip through the cracks on each other? All right. Well, you guys know where to find me. Hope you guys have a great start to the year. Hope this has been helpful and look forward to seeing how we can help out. All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Nolan. Appreciate your time, man.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, everybody. So what I have is 3 minutes left. I don't know if anybody's got anything they want to kind of talk about, throw around. We're here to kind of help in that process. Otherwise, I can give you your couple minutes back and we can go from there. You're so quiet today, y'all. All right. Well, I'll let you be. Enjoy your 2 minutes back. Thank you all very much. Appreciate your time and happy selling. We'll talk to you soon. See y'all.